R&B, which stands for rhythm and blues, can mean a lot of different things depending on which era we're thinking about. So it originated in the 1940s in the African American community, and it runs straight through to the current day where we have artists like Outkast, Beyonce, Rihanna, and it's really worth getting to grips with the different eras and the different styles and the history of R&B music. To my ears, this example kind of sounds a bit like the late 50s, early 60s style R&B pioneered by guys like Otis Redding. Now, drummers here tended to play quite uncluttered. It was quite simple, but what they did play, they delivered with a real great feel. They like to sit back on it, or in the pocket is a term you might have heard. So you want to sit back on the beat. You don't want to be pushing or racing away. In this example, we're given a time signature of 6/8. Now this means that unlike 4/4, we're thinking in quavers or eighth notes. In 6/8, it's commonly grouped in two groups of three. So here's an example of a groove in 6/8, a really simple basic one, which also happens to fit the musical example very well. We can take that groove a little bit further and just pop a bass drum on the last quaver of the bar. This just gives us a little lift into the next bar. Here's what I mean. Notice that the bass drum at the end of the bar is just slightly quieter than the bass drum on the first beat of the next bar. Fill-ins in this style tend to be quite simple but effective. In this case, I'm going to give it a little bit of a lilt and I'm going to swing my semi-quavers. When we're thinking about creating variation and development in our improvisation, perhaps we could use different cymbal sounds. So we might use the ride cymbal. That was quite common, certainly in the earlier styles of R&B, or closed hi-hats, or we might choose to open a hi-hat on certain beats. Personally, I wouldn't play open hi-hats too much. It tends to be a bit edgy for this style. We can also think about different snare drum sounds. So we might play an open snare drum sound, or we might play a cross stick. We can maybe make some little variations in the bass drum, but I wouldn't go too crazy with that. And of course, fill-ins are a great way to punctuate and add a lift to the piece when used appropriately and stylistically.